Anthony Mackie battles Brave New World misinformation. A first look at Supergirl comes from James Gunn, and this year's Oscar nominations cause a stir. All that and more coming up on this week's Multiverse News. Welcome to Multiverse News, your source for information about all your favorite fictional universes. My name's Matthew Carroll, and with me on the panel today, we've got Jay Sisson. How's it going, Jay?
It's going well. Excited to be with you all here and talk a little bit of news this week.
Absolutely, my friend. And J. Scotty St. Clair.
Hey. Looking forward to another exciting entry of Multiverse News. I'm very sing-songy right now. I don't know why.
That's a crooner. You're always sing-songy. That's just a J. Scotty thing that happens. And then, returning guest, thanks for coming back, buddy, from 323 with Reed Murphy himself. How's it going, bud?
Oh, it's going great. I'm just very happy to be back. It's always a fun time being over here and being in the guest chair instead of the stress of, where you're at right now. I can just bring some chaos.
Yeah, last night I guested. I don't guest that often. I like to guest, but I'm really bad about reaching out. I'm bad at planning my own shows, much less like branching, And I guested on Captain Game Show last night, and I got ready to podcast, and I had my hands like on my controls, like ready to hit like the marker button and the mouse like ready. I was literally like poised, like I was ready to like do battle, and then I was like, oh wait. I'm just talking, and I put my mouse and keyboard away, and I was just like, I'm just here to talk. This is so nice.
Yeah, pulled my soundboard up and everything, like I was about to do a full Super Bowl preview or something, and no, this is much better. Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming back, man. Well, we have a 5-star review, like we like to bring, from MCU Nerd. Says, hey guys, I love this podcast. Jay Sisson from Commute the Podcast is my favorite, and it's my source of all my geeky news. P.S. I have a plug for my friend's show. It's called The Nautilus Chronicles. Please check it out. I
guess you found my burner.
Yeah, your burner and your other podcast, Nautilus Chronicles, that you're promoting.
Did you say it was a band or a podcast? I'm sorry.
It's a show. He said show, but it is a podcast, I believe, unless I found a different Nautilus Chronicles. It's a I just wanted to look it up, make sure it wasn't porn or something before we promoted it. Not that I'm above promoting porn. You people do what you do.
You don't have to say it. It's fine. Everybody knows.
That's for the Patreon.
Yeah.
Patreon.
You got to pay extra for that.
You can get your bag if you're gonna show things. But no, it looks like it's some sort of narrative podcast, and we have talked about creating something like that because I think there's a lot of people in our network that likes create it, like wants to write, but we don't have an outlet for it. Like I always think like I want to be a showrunner, but it's a long road to being a showrunner. But if it's a podcast, that's kind of what you would be doing,
Yeah, dip your toes in.
Dip your toes. Twinkle, twinkle, baby.
That's also for the Patreon. You gotta save the toes for there too.
That's the higher tier, though. You gotta, you gotta pay extra for that.
There's that second tier that's full body shots. Just with the ankles cut off right at the ankles, and then you have to pay for that final tier to get up there.
This is what happens when Haley's not here to reel us in a little bit.
Tarantino has entered the
chat. All right, well, let's get into the news for this week, my friends. The topic of Captain America reshoots is one we've discussed a lot, and recently Cap himself, Anthony Mackie, addressed reshoots and poor test screening rumors head on, telling Empire it wasn't retooled at all. Every Marvel movie I've done has done reshoots, so it's not retooling or remaking. You basically get the movie and the story you want, you edit it together, then go back and shoot a few more scenes. Since last week, Hollywood Reporter has also finally revealed that the total budget of the film is significantly less than previously thought, coming in at around $180 million. Switching to the Sorcerer Supreme himself, Benedict Cumberbatch. I had a hard time saying his name that time. I don't know why.
The name was like a train coming right
Welcome
at you.
to the club.
Benedict. I just said Benedict.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Engelbert Humperdinck made some headlines after revealing in an interview with Variety that Doctor Strange will not be in Avengers Doomsday. Cumberbatch cited the reason being Strange's character not aligning with this part of the story, and also let loose that the Master of the Mystic Arts will be in a lot of Avengers Secret Wars. The Marvel machine is always churning. How do we feel about these bites?
Oh boy, where to start? I guess I'll start with the Doctor Strange stuff. So it's on the surface, it's a little surprising, but as I unpack it and think about it, it's not all that surprising. I think at one point in time, we were pretty confident that Strange was going to be at least a pretty integral part of the Kang dynasty, just with what we saw at the end of Multiverse of Madness, essentially introducing incursions to the world of the MCU there. So now what stands out to me is just how much of a reworking Doomsday is. At some point in time, I wondered, okay, are they taking the bones of Kang and just kind of swapping Doom in for Kang? That does not seem to be the case here. It seems like they're building it from the ground up, which stands to reason. They brought back the Russos. They brought back McFeely to come in and work on the script after rejecting Michael Waldron's previous version of the script there. So thinking about Doctor Strange's presence in the great scheme of things, it would be nice to see him pop up in Doomsday and at least play some kind of part there. But again, look at Infinity War and Endgame. You had a divvying up of the characters. So he played a big role in Infinity War, not so much in Endgame. So I think you're going to see the same thing happen with Doomsday and going into Secret Wars. We know Fantastic Four is going to be a big factor. We've heard more and more about the casting of like the original Avengers. So it makes sense that Doctor Strange is going to sit this one out. And while as a massive Doctor Strange fan, that's slightly disappointing, I do think to his point, we're going to see him sooner rather than later. And there's a couple of like unannounced Marvel projects or untitled Marvel projects. And I'm looking at that November 2026 slot. Seems like the kind of perfect place to slot in a Doctor Strange 3 there, and that would fit perfectly between Doomsday and Secret War and set him up for major participation there. So moving on to the juicy story here, and I do it with some hesitation because I want to tread lightly and not mince words here. I am not doing a full retraction of anything that I've said. I'm not full on backpedaling or anything like that, but this is a good example of not only information literacy but media literacy and how the narrative around a movie can kind of just go off the rails and we can be led to believe certain things. So the main thing for me is the 22 days of reshoots. I will fully acknowledge I thought the reshoots were more extensive than that. So learning that that's not the case and combine that with the budget being a lot smaller than we were, it does restore a fair amount of confidence in this thing for me. That being said, the thing that is not addressed here is the fact that we still have two poor test screenings that happened. That's not being addressed in any way, and they've that's been public knowledge that they have gone back and reworked things based on the reception of those test screenings. So again, I remain ever the optimist. I really feel for Anthony Mackie. I feel like he's being unfairly maligned and kind of like he's been the recipient of a lot of flack, undeservedly so. But again, just kind of take everything with a grain of salt when it comes to the news and examine where it's coming from and what the intent is. Because while I don't think the majority of people that are on platforms like ours that had concerns about this movie, I do not think that they're coming from a super negative place. I don't think they want Marvel to fail. I don't think that they're necessarily racist, but there are people out there with a vested interest that don't want a black Captain America to succeed. But, I do not think that is what's driving the negative narrative here. But it is good to hear that, the problems may not have been as widespread as we wanted or as we thought.
Well, and that's part of following the news cycle. I mean, you're always going to get an ebb and flow of rumors combined with confirmed information, combined with quotes, and that's just how it is. You're kind of following a narrative as it's unfolding. Numbers come out, and then official numbers come out, and you have to change your tune. And so for us on this show, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to adapt to ever-changing information. And ultimately, I'll kind of reiterate what I said last week about the reshoots and were they long or were they not, and the budget and was it high, was it not, or was it not. I think you just kind of have to look ahead and say, we're really not going to 100% know the extent of the Frankensteining of this film until we actually see it. And we may walk out of the theater and go, okay, felt cohesive, felt like a singular vision was had, and the reshoot thing was totally blown out of proportion. And clearly, this was a movie that had a vision, and it moved forward in that vision the entire time. But if we walk out of the theater kind of saying, yeah, man, I kind of got a little lost there, and it kind of seems like we threw this guy in there, whatever, then, we might walk out with a little bit of a different tune. So I think there remains a lot to be said. I mean, here on this podcast, we say it all the time, but we always want things to succeed. We're all fans at the end of the day. We're not going to bag on anything just to bag on it, especially like when it comes to Marvel. We like this type of stuff. It's a huge bummer for us whenever we go see these movies and we're like not crazy about them, or we watch the series and we're like, oh gosh, this plot hole and that plot hole or whatever. So, ultimately that's the place that we are always coming from, is that place. And then kind of thinking about Doctor Strange here, like, I think, yeah, Scotty, you said that it totally makes sense that he wouldn't be super involved in Doomsday, and I totally am with you on that, because I think when we look at, first of all, how his character was left, he was jetting off to the multiverse, so you don't really have to explain where he is during this time.
Sure.
But then also, too, man, in Infinity War, it was very easy, in a sense, to assemble the Avengers. Like they had all been left kind of together in pockets, right? We bring the Guardians all in together. All the Avengers are sort of in similar places. And it's just kind of like we only need a few scenes to pull the gang together. This round, like, not so much. Like, think about all of these characters and where they are. We haven't checked in on half of them since their introduction to the MCU. I'm thinking about guys like Shang-Chi or Moon Knight or what. It's like, where are these guys? And assembling this group is, I think, going to be a little bit more difficult than it was the first time around. And so I think if you're looking at Doomsday and you're saying, you know what, maybe, like, I'm kind of picturing it like maybe this is going to be more of a Doctor Doom focused thing and a less of an Avengers focused thing. And maybe we don't need to see as many of these characters on the first Avengers movie, and maybe we can wait until the Secret Wars of it all to kind of start bringing in more of them and roping them in and everything like that, The Doctor Strange 3, also I did want to mention that he did speak a little bit more about that in the article, and he did mention that they are doing a Doctor Strange 3, that he wants to do it, Marvel wants to do it, and that they're currently talking to him about who do you want to write it? Who do you want to direct it? What type of comics do you want it to draw from? Like, they're very much allowing him to be part of the creative process. Now, that tells me that potentially, though, if they're in that early of a stage, that thing might be after Secret Wars. I think it would be great to see it between, just like narratively speaking, but it might just, for time's sake, it might have to be after. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that, though.
Yeah, and I mean, just to follow up there on the Doctor Strange part, I was excited for more Strange, leading kind of an Avengers narrative and leading one of these big team up films. I'm down for it to, go with Secret Wars, but I am curious what the storyline would have been with Kang Dynasty and, what his role would have been altogether in that. Maybe we'll find out later on in the future, or something will, be reported out of there. But I think it can make a lot of sense, especially with if you take from maybe the 2015 Secret Wars run and Strange's role in there, he could, whatever multiversal adventures he's having with Clea right now, could wind up having to be, in whatever this new reality, if Doom creates some new reality in Battleworld, and all Strange will be our focus point into what this strange land is and how we navigate it and how he goes head to head with whatever power it is that Doom holds throughout it. So I'm excited for it, and I would love Doctor Strange 3 to come in between and fill some of that, but it's like you said, maybe they've been planning for a while, or I would hope that that's the key and they have something ready to go and can just like knock it out and knock out something really well. But if it comes after Secret Wars, maybe it'll fill some gaps in there. To go in on the Brave New World part, I'm excited to hear about the reduced budget. Actually, I'm excited to hear them downplay some of the concerns that we had going into all of this with the rumors of how bad it could be in these reshoots. And there are plenty of people like Scotty said, not maybe racism isn't necessarily the agenda. You have some people who just want to cause strife, who just want to cause some form of chaos, and then you do have some people who are just straight up not down for a black Captain America. And it was one of the things I was concerned about once, we heard that there was going to be a movie led by Anthony Mackie, who I'm really excited for. I'm very excited to see all the progress that he's made through the MCU, that all the patience is paying off with his own lead and this kind of character. But it's great to see that this is, maybe this isn't going to be as bad as a lot of people were either hoping for or imagining it was going to be. Maybe this is going to be, something really special. I've loved every trailer that I've seen for it. I've loved all the clips for it. I'm very excited. I'm excited for anything Harrison Ford's in. Shrinking has made me fall in love again with Harrison Ford on Apple. So
he's so good in that.
I'm excited to see this Red Hulk. I'm excited to see how this builds more of the MCU, because it looks like there's a lot of potential for it to set some real ground going forward. And we'll see how it goes Valentine's Day weekend, but I'm excited for it all together.
Yeah, me too. I've been very optimistic and very I've been a real apologist even when all these stories came out about the reshoots and the screenings, and I was like, this is just stuff that happens, and I feel like it's getting focused on, and I do think that there's a possibility there are things wrong with this movie. Of course there are. There's something wrong with a lot of even MCU movies, but my hope springs eternal, and I am so pumped for it being the beginning of this year, because if it's good and if it does set the tone for where the MCU is, it could lead directly into storylines that are going to be happening in Thunderbolts or even Daredevil and then Fantastic Four. This could be the beginning of, the kind of run we've been wanting for Marvel for a long time. It's felt so disconnected, and so many of these stories are that are coming are so sweeping. I mean, this all the way into Avengers Doomsday, I feel like are going to feel connected, at least some. And so I'm pumped for that. I'm pumped for the larger MCU to get a look again,
Yeah, I could see, again, there's no evidence to suggest that this is something on the table, but I could see these Avengers movies getting pushed just for what we're talking about, some of this breathing space a little bit. I mean, you think about, for example, Spider-Man 4, if we've talked about this concept before, but right now Spider-Man 4 is supposed to come out between Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, and that, I would imagine, has to change the narrative of Spider-Man 4, like we said before, Tom Holland probably can't go from fighting Doctor Doom and then beam back down to Earth to fight Scorpion or whatever, and then beam back up to, it's just it probably would have to drive the narrative on some level. So that plus Doctor Strange 3 plus, it's just kind of, I'm looking ahead, I'm saying, all right, so 2026, we're going to have to start filming this thing pretty soon if we're going to get it out there. And then you want another one in 2027. I could really see the discussion of maybe we should put Doomsday in that 2027 spot, push Secret Wars to 2028, try to give these films a little bit of breathing room, and I don't know. Again, I could just see it as well. Yeah, but you don't want them to be rushed though. You don't want them to just be oh god, we got to film a million characters and blast out all the CGI and just get this thing off the assembly line as fast as possible. You don't want that. So again, it's not. There's been no information suggesting that is happening. But I could just, if that happened, if they announced that tomorrow, I'd be well, duh, yeah, it makes total sense that you would do that.
Yeah,
I hear you. I just think that when Marvel was at its peak and at its best, both critically and financially, its most successful is when it was able to pick a schedule and rely on that schedule so that the movies could pass the baton back and forth, have great post-credit sequences because they knew it was coming. And I understand that we're looking at a tight timetable here, but they did that for 4 or 5 years, and it was just banger after banger after banger. It felt like the best TV show, being played out. Even when they were weaker movies, the connectivity was still there, and it made it feel like all part of this, tapestry that was building toward this big ending. And that's not how it feels right now. And the multiverse saga I don't want it to be a disappointing ending to the Multiverse saga. We need some continuity tying things together.
Speaking of that string of hits you were referring to, so I feel like it was 2016 through 2018 that like they really hit their stride. It was like
I'd even start at like 14 with like Winter Soldier.
I think they were percolating at that point in time. I think at that point in time, people were like, "Oh, this, we had the Avengers movie, but there's more to this universe that remains." I think between Guardians and Winter Soldier, that's when it started percolating again. But then you had Age of Ultron and Ant-Man in 2015. But with the 2016 like Civil War, like everything after that, from Civil War into Doctor Strange, into Spider-Man Homecoming, Guardians 2, all of that stuff. It was just, like you said, hit after hit after hit. And again, to make the comparison between Doomsday and Secret Wars to Infinity War and Endgame, I think a lot of people are expecting Doomsday to function in that Infinity War type role. But I think more and more, the more I contemplate it, I would actually prefer if Doomsday was a little bit more like an Age of Ultron or even that 2012 Avengers, because we did not get to 2016 and have that string of hits without all the groundwork that has been laid. And again, I love Marvel. I look forward to all of it. I'm not in dire straits here. I'm not, super concerned and worried about the fate of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it does feel a little rushed going into Infinity War and Endgame level events without the proper setup for some of these characters. We're only going to see the Fantastic Four once before they're a part of the Avengers.
Sure. Well, and it makes me wonder, this quote from Benedict Cumberbatch saying, I believe it's like, his story doesn't align with the story for Doomsday. I really wonder if a portion of Doomsday is going to be not in the proper MCU, not in the sacred timeline, as it were. Like, are we going to get, if this Doom is the Doom from the Fantastic Four universe, are we going to get more of that? And then will they pick up other characters from other universes before we make it back to the 616, 19999 whichever version you want to call it.
That's a thing I'm not looking forward to because I don't know it yet, but I'm halfway expecting some type of announcement at a point of Robert Downey Jr.'s Doom in the Fantastic Four film. I wouldn't be shocked if maybe we get that character revealed there. Just because I do, it's the only gripe I've had with it. Is just I want that Reed Doom relationship, and I'm sure I trust in Feige to figure that out in some way. He loves those characters so dearly and wanted them in the universe so badly. But I could still see Doom having a kind of Thanos in the first Guardians of the Galaxy film. I could see him having that kind of a small, but like in the background, menacing, lurking kind of role.
Yeah, and a great post-credit sequence that's leading towards, that Doomsday.
I think you have to have that. Like, I would be shocked if they didn't have, like you've done the announcement, you've put him out there, like. Yeah, I don't feel like you can just jumpstart the whole movie with nothing. I feel like there's got to be something there to set it up.
And you're paying that level of money to him, too.
And I think part of the reason they announced when they did is because Fantastic Four was about to begin shooting back when that was announced. And I think there was possibility it was just going to leak that he was all around these Marvel sets. And they didn't want that to leak or someone to see him in a Doom costume. They wanted it to be an announcement,
Sure.
So, yeah, I think you're totally right, Reed. I think he's totally going to be in that movie. One thing that I found interesting about this secret, you mentioned it, Jay, how the Avengers, or the Marvel heroes that aren't even Avengers yet, are kind of spread out. And Secret Wars allows for this very contrived way of just smushing them all together into Battle World. And then not only them, but heroes from other Marvel universes, and just kind of smush it all together, make it happen. But one interesting, like if you think about Infinity War and Endgame, Infinity War is a broader story and a lot more characters are focused on, because there's more characters on the table. More characters exist for the most of the movie, and then Endgame is a smaller story that kind of narrows down to 6 to 8 characters that they really focus on for the majority. Then of course there's the big battle sequence, but like for the most of the movie, it's a smaller movie. Kind of feels like Doomsday into Secret Wars will be the inverse, possibly, where it's a smaller group of characters for Doomsday, and then it explodes. And I wonder how that will be as a challenge writing, because you want your ending to be focused. You want your last half to be somewhat focused, I think, to really hit hard. But it could get lost with tons of characters kind of showing up in Secret Wars, you know?
Yeah, especially if you haven't kept up with them, which, you know, I mean, foreseeably a lot of people will come to the theater because they saw Infinity War and they saw Endgame and they know about Robert Downey Jr. and they want the event, but they haven't watched Miss Marvel and Moon Knight and Hawkeye and all of the Secret Invasion and all the random shows that have happened. It's, you know, there's people out there who just see the movies, and it's you're going to have to convince them to come to the theater too. So how do you do that without them watching a trailer and being like, who are these people again? Like, where's Chris Evans? You know, like it's you need to get them to the theater too, and that's a challenge that they'll have to get their head around.
Yeah, 100%. Lots of fun stuff happening in Marvel, though. I'm excited. Only 2 weeks away. 2 weeks away till we find out how this Brave New World's going to shake out.
Yeah,
just a fortnight, and I'm not talking about the game, you youngins.
It meant something before the game. All right, well, we have been going a long time, so before we get to this next story, we got DC plus Oscars controversy, and we'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Multiverse News. Let's turn to our next story. In typical James Gunn fashion, the director and DC Studios co-chair gave us a first look at Millie Alcock's Supergirl in a still photo he released on social media last week. The post also confirmed filming recently began. The weekend's NFL Division Championships provided space for a new-ish Superman trailer with mostly the same footage but a different look at Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor. And our final DC news nugget, actor Ulrich Thompson was cast as villain Sinestro for the upcoming Lantern series. Thompson is a Danish actor who is seen in The Blacklist here in the States. In comics, Sinestro is Hal Jordan's mentor. Is the drip drip of DC news fueling the fire for the engine of the hype train?
It honestly is for me. Like I was already very excited about James Gunn, you know, being hired to tackle this universe and to bring it back to life, and especially with a character that I've really loved since childhood. Spider-Man's always been my favorite superhero, but Superman had a special place in my heart. My dad introduced me to the original Christopher Reeve film, and we had a big bond over those and enjoying those, and I just could never make sense as to why no one else was loving Superman now. Like where this character had gone, where the love gone for it. Why can't they get the movies right? I wasn't a big fan of the Snyderverse. I enjoyed for the most part what they were trying to do with Man of Steel, and I liked Henry Cavill's performance overall, but I was missing the hope, the joy, and seeing James Gunn get the job for this and taking it on gave me some actual hope for the character of Hope. And once the trailer was revealed, I'm sold. I'm sold on it altogether. I've bought completely in on the hype train. I'll be there opening weekend for it. Corn Sweat looks amazing. The visuals of it look incredible. And I just love that it's coming into an established universe of sorts already. I've really enjoyed Creature Commandos on Max, and seeing that this is almost going to feel like this bright, loving character that's trying to find the good in mankind and the good in this world, coming into what is essentially a very, very shitty world on Creature Commandos, and seeing how that's all going to come together. The little preview during the divisional weekend was great. I'm expecting some more footage probably during Super Bowl weekend. And with that as well, like you brought up Millie Alcock as Supergirl, and I'm not sure if it's confirmed that she's going to appear in Superman. I would expect.
I believe it is confirmed.
It's been pretty confirmed, at this point, yeah.
And I love that we're going to already jump into that relationship and continue to expand the character and make the supers like the kind of central figures of the DC universe here under Gunn. And with Ulrich Thompson joining as Sinestro in Lanterns, I have to admit I'm not particularly familiar with the actor, but seeing all the comments and the just almost unanimous praise for him and that casting makes me very excited to see him tackle this kind of role and such a complicated kind of character and figure to have. I'm curious if he'll already be established as the, kind of Sinestro core character that we have in the comics already in Lanterns, but we'll see as we go along. I'm very excited for Lanterns as a whole. Kyle Chandler is one of my favorite underrated actors. Clear Eyes, Full Hearts, Can't Lose. You can bring that to the Lanterns too. M and Aaron Pierre, I think they're going to do a fantastic job. I'm bought in on the hype train, man. Like, I'm not leaving Marvel behind. I'm ready for them to coexist and to continue to make each other better. Hopefully this competition will, continue to drive Marvel as it's getting an opportunity with bringing X-Men into the fold, Fantastic Four into the fold, another set of characters that I love so much and want to do really well. Hopefully it just drives both companies to just make better and better and better content as we go forward.
Yeah, we are getting that Superman movie and the Fantastic Four movie in the same month, which is a really exciting thing to think about. Wow. It's just an exciting thing to look at, and I'm with you, and I think we all are. Like, we all loved that trailer. I loved the trailer overall. I really love the vibe that we're going for here. But of course, because the internet ruins everything, the big conversation around has been around the shot of Corn Sweat's face as he's flying. You know what I'm talking about in the news?
Oh, he's doing the barrel roll.
Kind of.
Like the perspective shot where it's kind of like right on his face and he's kind of like, and okay. Do I love that kind of shot in a movie? Not particularly. Is it not a big deal? It's not. To me, it's 0% a big deal. And it's a shot that we have seen James Gunn use before, like Adam Warlock, for example, in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. The exact same shot. Like, that's just a thing. He likes to do those shots, And of course, like, people were just like tearing this movie up online. Like, oh, it looks so stupid. Here's Henry Cavill taking off, and look how good that looks, and look how bad this looks. And it's a big downgrade, and it's CGI, and James Gunn even came out and was like, it's not CGI, it's literally a camera on David Cornsweat's face. So you have all that conversation, and I just need to say that, I just missed when we enjoy things, like, I just missed that. Like, why do we have to do this? Like, why do we have to look at everything and be like, well, this one shot ruins all of it for me or whatever. And it's not like this thing. It's got to be like that thing. And since it's not, it's bad or whatever. It's just like, it's exhausting. And I hate that type of stuff. And even if it's not your bag or whatever, I think there's a lot to be excited about with Superman. And I do want to mention real quick as well that James Gunn also came out this week and said that he has started writing his next movie, which is exciting. And we don't know anything about it. We don't know what he's talking about. I mean, we can theorize, I guess, if we want to, but he did come out and say that. So there is a vision for the DCU. We are going somewhere with it. They have started filming early, which I love about James Gunn. He films these things early. He gives a lot of time for the CGI. He does not rush it. And I think that's all. These are all good signs. Like, this is all pointing to a universe that I think, if you're not a person that bags on everything, you should be excited about on some level. Unless you just hate stuff to hate stuff, and then have a great time, I guess.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on the just why you gotta hate on stuff that you just don't know about yet.
You must be new here.
I think that the truth has borne out over time that the versions of these characters, of superhero characters that show up and have a dose of hope and brightness and are willing to be silly like the comics a little bit, like with their bright colors and like not shy away from that stuff. Those versions generally are more successful financially, I think. I think that a big part of DC's problem over the last years is that commitment to that Snyder vision. And I think a few of the ones that like kind of broke that mold, I think the first Wonder Woman movie and still that last fight might have felt kind of Zack Snyder-esque, but like the overall movie was a lot brighter and more hopeful. And the same thing with Aquaman. Those movies, like, they kicked butt in the box office. I think that people look for that, and there are fanboys who want everything to be that Frank Miller Dark Knight, and like not everything needs to be that. Like we need that. That's great, but we don't need everything to be that. So yeah, I'm just really excited for this movie.
Yeah, I think you guys covered the unnecessary backlash pretty well. So the only thing that I will add is, like, much like with the Captain America story, I think this is just a byproduct of the news cycle for these things becoming a 24-hour news cycle. Everybody always has eyes on, like, every little thing, every little first image that comes out, and they want to examine it with a microscope. So we here don't do that, but there are people with a platform that they do just want to hate on everything, and even if they don't have anything to say, they will just complain and criticize just to have something to talk about. So all that being said, my big takeaway when I honed in on the new footage when he did the barrel roll, to quote Peppy from Star Fox 64, do a barrel roll. He did the barrel roll. That was awesome. And then we did get the little shot of Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor clearly in that Arctic environment. So I think, it was a lot of people probably suspected, or it was a foregone conclusion, that when you see Superman laying in the ice kind of defeated like that, chances are Lex Luthor probably had a hand in that. But just to kind of start to see how the scenes are going to work together, even with just a little bit of extra footage, was exciting to me. Millie Alcock, happy for her, looking forward to learning more about Supergirl, but when all you're showing me is the character sitting in a chair with the logo, felt a little unnecessary for me. If we wanted to really make a splash with the first look at this movie, we could have done something a little bit better. But yeah, I remain excited for everybody involved with that project. But then, yeah, coming back to the Lanterns casting, Reed, you mentioned that you weren't super familiar with Ulrich, and I didn't think I was either. But when I looked back on his filmography, he's worked a lot in TV, but I haven't touched anything that he's done in TV. I know Banshee. A lot of people love Banshee. That's where Anthony Starr from The Boys got his start. But he has appeared in a number of films, including Kingdom of Heaven from, I think that was 2007, 2008. But
yeah.
I can't tell you who he was, who he played in any of the films that I recognize. So I think that speaks to his ability to disappear into roles, and it also kind of highlights the fact that he's a character actor. But yeah, looking at the age, Kyle Chandler is 59. Makes sense that we're going to have an older version of Hal Jordan. Sinestro should be as old as him, if not a little bit older. So you brought up the point there, Reed. Are we going to see a fully established Sinestro with a Sinestro core? I think so. And I think, given this actor's age, again, hope, he lives a long and healthy life and everything like that. But in terms of even how long he wants to work or be on a project like this that probably involves the prosthetics and just the makeup for the CGI, I just more and more I'm suspecting that Hal Jordan and probably characters like Sinestro are going to be a little bit more short-lived in this DCU, just to set up more legacy characters like Jon Stewart.
Yeah. And just I could see where, they'll build up, just like Hal is going to build up Jon Stewart, Sinestro could be building up some other force that's going to be a, central figure to whether it's the cosmic side of all of this or, just a foil to Jon Stewart through this. Sure. Yeah, I could totally see that.
I guess there also remains the possibility that Hal Jordan could just go bad. He did it in comics, so maybe he takes out Sinestro and takes his place.
And you have a very versatile actor in Kyle Chandler who can handle, whether it's playing a heroic, noble kind of character or a jerkish asshole or, straight kind of a little sociopathic villain. I would love to see him just tackle all of it as Hal Jordan. Yeah. And, we could, especially when they described Lanterns as almost True Detective style, I think is how they introduced this when James Gunn was first announcing everything. That's very exciting to me. And to, as it's going to be a HBO and Max production, I've got nothing but full faith in it. If HBO has faith in it, I have faith in it. And to see where this goes.
Yeah. After Penguin, I'm pretty excited for another DC show that is planning to take a very serious look at the Green Lantern Corps. That sounds exciting as hell.
Do you all know if Waller is still happening? I remember that was something that was announced a while back.
Gunn came out and said, like maybe a couple of months ago, every single project that has been announced is still in some form of development.
Okay.
He did say that, but then again, James Gunn says a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Batman Brave and the Bold would like to speak to you.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Something that this all makes me think about is I worry sometimes about the longevity of the universes, just in general. Like when I think about the Marvel Universe and I think about like, the passing of the torch, how it has been sort of fumbled in the at least financial success arena. And like, if we lose the original Cap and the original Stark or the original Iron Man, original Hulk, like if we lose these actors and characters, is the universe sustainable? And then I think about what Gunn's setting up here, and sometimes I worry because he's not doing a lot of origin stories, it seems. They're jumping into a universe already existing, and they're doing a lot of like, hey, it's Superman. There's tons of other heroes around. There's villains around. Like, it's the Green Lantern Corps. We're already on Jon Stewart, like they're not taking the time to build into those things. And it worries me that like this story it has a finite shelf life or something. Like I get worried about that, which is a weird thing to worry about, but I do. But then I think about it from like James Gunn's perspective and the studio's perspective. If they can put together a 10-year run like Marvel had, they would take that any day. You know what I mean? Like, They don't need, like, I sit here and think, because I love a connected universe and because I'm a Star Trek fan, I think 50 years down the road, and I'm like, you're using Jon Stewart already? Like, you gotta pace yourself. You got 50 years to go. But like any studio is just like, no, these things get rebooted. We just need to put together a killer 10 years. You know what I mean? And like, this could be that great killer 10 years.
Yeah, we do have like the Marvel sort of spoiling going on where we have like all the Avengers movies and all that and all the team ups, and we lose sight of the fact that is rare. I mean, if you have a run where you've established all of these Justice League characters and they're in their own really cool, well-received projects across television and film, and then if you do like one Justice League movie with them, that is a win. Like, you have won. Sure. Like, you did it. Like, it's we kind of think about like, well, they have to keep being in these movies for 25 years or whatever, and man, it's just not really realistic. So you really just got to focus on just the few stories ahead, and that can lead to something big. But then you don't have to keep doing it over and over and over again. If you do it once, hey, like, put your flag in it, and you did something cool.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to that next story. The Oscar nominations were unveiled last week after a brief delay caused by the devastating and ongoing fires in California. Leading the pack this year is Emilia Perez, earning an impressive 13 nominations, despite ongoing controversy surrounding the film's portrayal of cultural identity, which has sparked heated debates online. Close behind are The Brutalist and Wicked, tied with 10 nominations each, and Complete Unknown and Conclave earned 8 nods apiece. On the studio front, Netflix emerged as the frontrunner with 16 total nominations, followed by A24 with 14, Universal with 13, Focus Features with 12, and Searchlight with 10. However, the announcement wasn't without its surprises or disappointments, as some fan-favorite films, including Challengers, Furiosa, and Civil War, were notably snubbed. With the Oscars, there's always buzz, drama, and unexpected omissions, but is this year's different from others?
I don't know if I'd necessarily say it's different from others. I mean, I think this year's Oscars is in a weird place. The fires obviously have cast a tone over the Oscars that's going to have to be dealt with. You have these strange AI controversies with The Brutalist and Emilia Perez that we've talked about, that the Academy is going to have to figure out what to do with if they want to give these films their awards and just sort of confirm that as not too big of a deal going forward, or if they want to make a statement. It just kind of remains to be seen about that and what's going to happen with those films in particular. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a ceremony. I mean, the Oscars is always going to struggle with certain core things. It's going to struggle with being accessible to the average person. How do we get people to be interested in this? How do we draw people in who maybe aren't really like awards show watcher type people? You've got like, it follows up the Golden Globes and all this type of other stuff. It's another award show. Like, how are we getting people to come to the table for it? But I think what it does have going for it is a really diverse set of films. I think Conan O'Brien being the host is incredibly strong, and I think he will bring. I think he will handle humor balancing with the stuff. I love Conan.
Reed's
like I've
holding
followed
up a
him.
Conan O'Brien Funko Pop.
For the podcast audience, yeah.
Like Conan's the man. Like I think he'll be able to really balance. Like he's going to have to deal with the LA fires and the seriousness of that, and he's going to have to balance it with the humor, and he's going to there's going to be a level of that I think he's very cut out for. So when you're looking at it, I mean, there's definitely winners to take away. You mentioned Emilia Perez, you mentioned Netflix, like obvious winners leading the pack with all of these nominations, despite the controversies, despite all the online chatter. Like it's still like you've been nominated for 13 Academy Awards, and The Brutalist, again, despite the AI category, and Wicked, which, we just didn't really know what was going to happen with Wicked. I don't know how many of those 10 it's going to actually win. It might sort of be in a Barbie situation where it gets nominated for a lot but doesn't take home a lot, so kind of remains to be seen with Wicked. But you definitely, you have your snubs / losers / whatever you want to call it. I mean, some of the more common ones that are being thrown out there, Luca Guadagnino for Challengers, and for like Daniel Craig and Queer. Like these are movies that were not brought to the table for awards, and a lot of people expected. Nicole Kidman's performance in Baby Girl is another one that people kind of thought, okay, she's probably a front runner. Angelina Jolie, Pamela Anderson, some of these like names that you kind of expected to maybe see in the mix didn't really get in the mix. Maybe like Denzel for Gladiator 2. It's so there's just and that's my reaction too. Is it's just kind of like it's I don't know. I'm not too hung up on who did and didn't get nominated at the end of the day, but yeah, I think we're in for a really interesting award season overall. I mean, controversies are always going to happen on some level. I do feel like maybe this one's a little bit more than usual in turn because you got the AI angle, but still, there's a lot to be said here, and I think it's still a strong slate of films overall, despite all of that.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money there, Jay. In terms of like surprises, I don't think any of the nominees are all that surprising outside of what you brought up, the number of controversies surrounding some of these frontrunners, and apparently that did not have that much of an impact, at least on the Academy voters in terms of the nominations here. We'll have to see.
The nominations too were in before the AI controversy.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's a good angle to remember.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for correcting me and bringing that up there. But the other thing that I find surprising about the nominees anyway is like they're kind of in lockstep with the Golden Globes, and we've talked a lot about that. A lot of the times the Golden Globes are kind of a precursor for the award season, but it's not a 1-to-1. You can't necessarily expect things that got love and attention at the Golden Globes to go the distance come Oscars, but here we have a lot of the winners from the Golden Globes going the distance with the nominations here, and those that were kind of, quote unquote, snubbed at the Golden Globes. So I bristle a little bit when it comes to snub. Like you mentioned, Daniel Craig's Queer. I don't know if that's really a snub. Yeah, maybe there was some buzz for his performance, but I just in terms of like the likely nominees, I don't think his exclusion is all that surprising to me. And again, to bring up Luca Guadagnino, I didn't see Queer, so I can't speak to the quality of that film, but I think Challengers is the bigger snub, in my opinion. The fact that didn't get any love whatsoever, not even for the score or the soundtrack, where we saw that one win a Golden Globe. So you're going to have a lot of Oscar experts out there kind of like trying to tell you the definition of a snub. And ultimately, it's trying to put parameters around a subjective thing. Like, did you expect this film to take home a lot of awards? Did it deserve to? Was it expected to? That's such a subjective conversation out there. But for my purposes, looking at this lineup of films, the big snub for me is while Wicked did get a Best Picture nomination, absolutely nothing for the director John M. Chu, which is just a travesty in my opinion. He directed the hell out of that movie, and it would not work as well as it did without his guiding hand. But the other one for me is September 5th. Or September 5. I'm still dubious about how that one's pronounced, but I caught that one a couple of weekends ago, and I was blown away just from the filmmaking, the tightness of the film, the story that it told, the performances. Peter Skarsgård, delivers a heck of a performance. John Maggio, who we haven't talked about all that much, but he popped up in Past Lives last year. Another fantastic performance for him. The fact that this film got no love whatsoever, not even a nomination, that is the definition of a snub to me. So there are some disappointments here, but going into this award season, I've seen 8 of the 10 films. 7 of the 10 films. So I'm feeling pretty good going into this. And like you said, Jay, the fact that a lot of these controversies were not as much of a thing until after the nominations were locked in, I think it's going to make for a very interesting ceremony when we see our winners and losers.
Yeah, I can't say I'm as well prepped this year for the Oscars, and maybe that's where a little bit of my excitement has died down. We're on the 323 network, we cover the Oscars pretty much annually. We do it part of our Super Week coverage and talking about the nominations and going throughout the whole shebang. But I don't know, this year it just hasn't felt as prominent, as huge for me, and I don't know if I've seen as much buzz surrounding everything, and maybe that's because of the films of choice here with Best Picture. And, you know, I saw Gladiator 2. I liked Gladiator 2. It was okay. Not mad about the Denzel snub, like we were all saying. He was an enjoyable part of it, not necessarily Oscar buzzy. But when it comes to movies like The Brutalist, which I'm excited to see, it seems like an incredible film and testament to the art. But it's not something that really is going to draw too much of an audience, especially, I think it did well coming in 10th place this past weekend at the box office, but
yeah,
you know, it's not going to be a 3-hour epic with an intermission, about the immigrant experience is something people should see, but aren't unfortunately going to drive to the theaters for. And maybe that's created like a low buzz to all of this. And, you know, even with some of the snubs, I don't think, Furiosa would have necessarily created too much more buzz, especially with how it performed during its run. And when it comes to these surprises and snubs, I don't think they hit too many. Like you all were saying with Daniel Craig for Queer, with all of the there was a little bit of hype and a little bit of buzz for him with those nominations, especially once the Golden Globes were out. Mm-hmm. That I could have seen him sneaking in there, but I'm really honestly not mad at the Best Actor lineup here, especially when you look at the people he's competing with. Ralph Fiennes for Conclave was somebody that was being looked at as a front runner for winning this award just a couple months ago, and Timothée Chalamet for A Complete Unknown is doing his best. God bless him with SNL. He's campaigning like hell for this Oscar. And, Adrian Brody with one of the greatest comeback stories of, how many, weird or shitty films can somebody release in between potential Oscar wins between this and his last one with The Pianist in 2004. Sebastian Stan was a big surprise.
Oh, yeah, good call.
Of actually getting in there for The Apprentice. It didn't, Jeremy Strong playing Roy Cohn in the film has been a front runner on supporting actor, but it was figured to be a little bit more of a fight for Stan, so I'm happy for him. I would have liked to have seen a little more love for the other supporting actor front runner in there, Kieran Culkin's film A Real Pain, which starred him, and it was Jesse Eisenberg who was the lead and the director for it. Honestly, would have loved to have seen a nomination for Eisenberg. I think he was a little bit of the typical Eisenberg, but threw in a lot more subtle heartache and emotion to the performance. I thought it was a really beautiful film. But outside of that, Challengers, Civil War, good flicks, but they'll be remembered on their own, but don't necessarily need the Oscar nominations. I loved Wicked, and I couldn't agree with anything more than the kind of disbelief and anger of John Chu not getting a Best Director nomination. Yeah. Absolutely incredible directorial work by him. And like you said, that film would not have been nearly as mesmerizing and phenomenal if it wasn't for his direction. You just see it with some of the style and flair that he brought to In the Heights a couple of years ago and Crazy Rich Asians before that. He has really, really, really created a awesome experience, and I'll be curious to see what it does win. I do agree. I think it'll be more of a Barbie situation where it's getting some, maybe a couple little technical awards. Ariana Grande was awesome. It would not make me mad if she won supporting actress just
Not at
because
all.
of how spectacularly funny and just captivating her and Cynthia Erivo were. But I'm looking forward to it. It's not my most anticipated Oscars year ever, but like we said, Coco's there, so I gotta root for the boy. I gotta root for him. I think it's gonna be a fun experience with him.
He's the real winner of the night.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm so excited to say that I've seen one of these movies. I watched it tonight right before our show, so I can say A Real Pain is really good. That's about all I can say. We're about to start our coverage over on Bingers Assemble, where we cover all the Oscar nod movies, but I haven't really gotten started yet. I've seen a few. I'm exaggerating a bit for comedic effect, but I did really like A Real Pain. I did before the show. I was like, I'm just going to put this on for 20 minutes and see if I like it, then watch the rest later. Ended up watching the entire movie in one sitting, which these days is rare for me because I'm such a I got so much going on, but really liked Real Pain. I have not seen Wicked yet, and I really want to. I'd also like to see Amelia Perez. I didn't even realize it was a musical. I know that's old news, but there's a TikTok going around, and it killed me. It's a TikTok that is putting Wicked next to Amelia Perez and then like kind of questioning the fact that Amelia Perez won Best Musical at the Golden Globes. But the tactic they use is putting the best possible moment of Wicked. It's that defying gravity moment, like the music is swelling and she's singing at the top of her lungs and it's amazing. And they cut to like what is probably one of the low points of Amelia Perez, but the juxtaposition is like, it was very funny. I was swiping through on TikTok last night and found that TikTok, and it did crack me up because it's so like, it's like her belting out this amazing thing and then cuts to two people like, it just, the difference was so stark. It's very funny.
I got to say real quick before we move on, did you see the shot of Luca Guadagnino walking out of the Golden Globes? Did you see that this was a thing? So basically, as soon as they announced Best Picture, like as the second that they announced it, and it wasn't one of his films, he literally got up and stormed out, like left the Golden Globes. Yeah, which is no-no. Like that is a no-no. You don't do that.
Okay.
And I gotta wonder if that has contributed to maybe a little bit of the snub aura around Luca Guadagnino. You know, I think people in Hollywood, especially when you're talking about Academy voters, like they really don't like that stuff. Like they think that you're being extremely rude. Like they think that you're messing with the sanctity of the awards season or whatever. Right. And I just got to wonder if that somehow played a part. But yeah, that has been kind of a controversy that's followed him a little bit over the last month.
Wow. I did not know about that. I don't know how much of an impact it had on these nominations, but it certainly will have an impact going forward without a doubt.
100%. Yeah.
The one thing I wanted to bring up before we move on, though, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Dune. Dune 2 got a Best Picture nomination, which is great to see because it came out so early in the year. Often when movies, get released in the first quarter of the year, they don't get as much attention when it comes to awards nominations, but very happy for Dune, but I don't know if anybody saw Josh Brolin. He had some comments about the fact that Denis Villeneuve was not nominated for Best Director. He said he's going to quit acting. Now, I do believe he was saying it tongue-in-cheek, but it's a strong take.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it'll be an interesting Oscar season to follow. I'm just upset that neither Craven nor Madam Web had anything nominated.
Snub.
Damn.
Big snub there. Big snub there.
Yep. Huge snub.
All right. When we get back, we have in the lightning round, Ocean's 14 has a director. The White Lotus will return for a fourth season. Robert Eggers' next film is announced. Plus, news about Invincible, Star Wars, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Multiverse News. We have a Patreon, you guys. Don't sleep on our Patreon. It's patreon.com/multiverse newscast. $4 a month. You get all these perks, plus you get to support the show. It's just a little $1 a week. It's like you're tipping us for collecting and bringing you all this news and, spot on analysis every week. So check it out.
Also,
Multiverse newscast.
I believe that there is a small little token of our appreciation cooking behind the scenes. I won't spoil the surprise for all of the patrons that will make its way to your door. So maybe if you haven't joined and that is enough of a tease to get you to join and you've been thinking about it, maybe now's the time so you can get in on that.
Yeah, get in on it.
I don't want to hear any belly aching, after the fact. If you didn't get to get in on this exclusive gift.
All right. Well, let's turn to our Spotify poll for this week.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's talk about our Spotify poll. This is a Jay Sisson obsession that I don't know that we've ever talked about it on the show, but we've discussed it multiple times in the live recording of the show. And after the show. Just Jay Sisson can't leave this alone, so we thought we'd bring the question to you guys. Is the Kool-Aid Man the liquid or the glass? And we asked you to comment your logic in the comments. 38% of you said the liquid, and 62% of you said the glass. I thought about giving like a wishy-washy possibility, but I decided no. Like it's just yes or no.
Walk the fence. Yeah,
you can't walk the fence here. Is he the liquid or is he the glass? And the glass, pretty resoundingly, 62% says the glass.
I have an incredible amount of respect for our listeners. I love our listeners. However, in this particular case, I believe that 60 whatever percent of you are dead wrong. Like I think the Kool-Aid Man is the liquid. Like if I pour him in something else, he's still the Kool-Aid Man, in my opinion.
Oh man,
it's almost like the glass is like his skin. And the liquid is his soul, like that.
Well, now you're talking about like it's the body and spirit thing. Like he's like a triune.
It's like a drink my blood. It's like a communion thing.
Drink of me.
Oh gosh.
Do this in remembrance.
Well, wait. What do you guys? Am I wrong on this? Like, am I team hashtag liquid truth over here?
I align with you, Jay. I agree with you. I think the Kool-Aid Man is the Kool-Aid. It's in the name, right?
Look, in this divided America, like, I don't know. I was going to say the glass, but now I've been open to listening, and I think you've turned me to the actual liquid.
I just don't know, because he goes to parties and pours of himself, which I guess goes for the, like, if you want to say it's like a Eucharistic thing, like, that feels... It's sacrilegious, as Homer Simpson would say.
Nice.
All right. Well, we have a couple comments.
Nothing. Yeah.
No, we haven't. But I think we've all been outvoted. I'm gonna go with the glass. I think the liquid. He's the Kool-Aid Man. He's like the He's like the ice cream man. He's bringing Kool-Aid to the kids. He breaks through the wall. Suddenly, all those kids have Kool-Aid in their hands. Like the glass is he.
Who are you? I am.
I am. I am that I am. The Kool-Aid Man. Oh Lord. I feel like we're gonna get weird religious.
We're going deep into the Bible here to talk about the Kool-Aid Man.
I'm 100% down for this religious cult of the Kool-Aid Man. I think I'm gonna have to bring this. Jay, you're gonna have to come over to our network. This is gonna be something else stifled.
I did say that this is like a great 3 or 4 beers deep with your friends at a bar conversation. Like this is like put this one in your back pocket. Save it for that moment.
It's good, Jay. Thank you for bringing it to us, and thank you for spreading the word of our Lord, the Kool-Aid Man. In the comments, we got Jake Sizzle says the Kool-Aid Man isn't just a glass pitcher with liquid. He's the living embodiment of the eternal struggle between containment and freedom. The glass represents the physical realm and the vessel crafted by forces beyond human comprehension, possibly interdimensional beings. Note the perfect round shape, ancient symbols of infinite cycles. The liquid, his Kool-Aid, is his soul, his essence, and his power source, a sentient plasma-like substance theorized to exist in quantum flux.
There you go.
Thank you, Jake Sizzle.
Yeah, there's only one response. That's the only response to that.
Oh my gosh, that's so perfect. When we're all bowing down to the Kool-Aid Man, we can be like, "Oh yeah." That's how every song will end
Instead
with,
of amen,
yeah,
you gotta
exactly.
say, "Oh yeah."
Oh,
Can I get
Can I get an
oh,
oh?
yeah.
Can I get an oh yeah? Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Man. That's that sound you hear is everybody closing this podcast out. They're like, I don't need to listen to the lightning round today. It's fine.
All right, I'm gonna head out.
Closing the podcast and opening their Bibles to look for redemption. Another comment we had: Atticus Bronick said a person wears clothes around skin. Ergo, a Kool-Aid person would wear glass around liquid. I don't like your PC language, Atticus. A Kool-Aid person?
Yeah, we don't call them that anymore. That's outdated. Yeah. That's offensive.
Be careful with that Kool-Aid. Yeah, don't talk to those Kool-Aid people that way.
They're not defined by their Kool-Aidness.
I'm thinking about like if a Kool-Aid Man came out, he was like blue or green, and people got mad. They're like, they race switched the Kool-Aid Man.
Oh my gosh. That is a Fox News segment like waiting to happen.
They're turning the Kool-Aid blue.
when I was young, Kool-Aid was red and only red.
Oh man.
Last one, Dretude says the liquid is the brain that controls the glass body. And a thoughtful emoji.
I respect it, but I think you're thinking too small. Broaden your horizons.
Imagine when this is discussed at a bar, Jay just disagrees with what anyone says and tells them they need to broaden their minds. Push further, dig into this deeper.
Just like to imagine whatever bar in America that this conversation appears, Jay will just manifest. Right there to tell them.
I'll be there. I'll be sort of like the debate manager, right in the middle.
Oh yeah, he breaks straight through the brick wall, and he's like, "I'm here."
Just holding a glass of Kool-Aid and just ready to moderate.
Living in a Jay Sisson-shaped hole.
Man, we need more Spotify polls like this more often.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this one. Okay, let's get to our lightning round, and we're gonna try to treat it like a lightning round this week, guys, because we are running long. But this is the portion of the show where I'm gonna read a story, and then we each have the chance to yell out our names to claim that story. The first person who yells out their names gets to respond to the story. It's a way to cover lots of stories quickly, but we do get one rebuttal if something's just too spicy to let go. One rebuttal per lightning round. Okay, first story. Warner Brothers unveiled a new official trailer for Sinners from director Ryan Coogler and frequent collaborator and star of the film, Michael B. Jordan. The film will hit theaters April 18th.
Scotty, great trailer. By and large, I do have one issue, which I'll address later, but this did what an official trailer should do, right? We had a teaser trailer before that kind of teased us, gave us an idea of what we might be getting into. But here we get a much clearer picture of what the narrative is going to look like. There was debate about Michael B. Jordan. Is he actually playing twins? And that does seem to be the case. Very clearly established in this trailer that he's playing brothers. And with the title Sinners there, just the origin of this like supernatural evil and source of chaos, where that's coming from. I think they're taking it in a very interesting direction. With what effectively kind of looks like the first like raves to me. It's it is steeped in the area of Louisiana during like Prohibition, so they have their speakeasy, they're kind of partying, doing things that they're not supposed to be doing, quote unquote sinning, and that is the kind of origin of some of these unsavory things that happen. So looks incredible as far as all the filmmaking goes. It was one of those trailers that they showed too much. They probably could have cut it like a full 60 seconds shorter, and that would have been just fine by me.
Oh, that was the negative thing. I was waiting on a negative thing, and that was the negative thing.
That was the negative thing.
All right. David Leitch, the stuntman turned director behind John Wick and The Fall Guy, is in talks to direct Ocean's 14. The film is expected to return original Ocean's 11 cast members, George Clooney and Brad Pitt, among others. Matt. This gets me really excited. I love the Oceans movies, particularly the first one. I think it's just a classic, an absolute classic. So I'm really pumped to see what they can do with this. And the director of The Fall Guy seems like a perfect fit. David Leitch seems like a perfect fit for that world. And just the Fall Guy specifically just has that same sense of cool to me that Ocean's 11 had. I mean, a lot of David Leitch's stuff does, but particularly the sort of, I think a lot of his stuff is great, but not as funny. And I think Fall Guy, it's funny and stylish, and I think that's the thing I really need from an Ocean's movie. So bringing back the original cast, this gets me really excited.
Yeah, Scotty with a rebuttal. I didn't think I was going to reply to this one because I'm not a huge Oceans fan. I have a healthy respect for them, but when you were describing David Leitch's filmmaking style, and I think stylish is a good word for it, but I would say sleek. I think he has a very sleek style of filmmaking. I think that is perfect for the world of Oceans. Like if I could describe those heists or where they have that kind of like final moment where you get the big reveal, it's all so sleek. So feels great.
Yes, absolutely. And I think like Soderbergh, I've always thought just nailed that. And I didn't know, if bringing back the series with a different director was a good idea until I heard it was David Leitch. And I'm like,
sure.
Yes, I'm all good for that. That sounds great. Like, I think his movies might be more Ocean's 11 than Soderbergh's movies are. You know what I mean? Like Soderbergh has a great style to his movies, but they're not all sleek. And I think about David Leitch, and they are sleek, like from top to bottom. And that is so needed for this. And I actually think Ocean's 12 particularly, and 13 less so. 13 tried to kind of return to the style of the first one a little bit, but 12 lost that sleekness a little bit, and I think that's part of why it wasn't as successful. I want to think of that movie, it just doesn't feel as cohesive visually. I'm excited for this. Neon has released the first trailer for horror film Hell of a Summer, starring Stranger Things star Finn Wolfhard. And that name. Love that name. Who is also making his directorial debut. The film debuts in theaters on April 18th.
Reed. I love a good slasher film, and I love a good campy 80s style slasher film. This one actually taking it to camp and going the whole route. Finn I'm very excited that this is his directorial debut. Not beating the 80s horror kid allegations that he's got going on over there. It looks like it's going to be a really good, fun, gory time. The jokes are landing, but I'm actually looking, forward to some good suspense in it too. Some of the lines just in the trailer already are cracking me up. The one kid saying the line's been cut. Oh, I've always wanted to say that. It's one of my favorites already from the thing. I'm really looking forward to this movie and looking forward to what Finn can do with it.
Yeah. HBO has renewed the anthology series The White Lotus for a 4th season. The 3rd season will begin streaming on February 16th.
Scotty, The White Lotus has for a long time been hovering around like the top spot of like the show that I should be watching. I just keep hearing great things about it across the first 3 seasons. So this just motivates me even more to check it out. The fact that we're getting a 4th season.
Yeah, definitely worth checking out. Focus Features, Universal's art house division, which released and financed Nosferatu, is reteaming with Robert Eggers for his next film titled Is it Werewolf or Werewolf? Just the missing H makes me feel like it's Werewolf. But I don't know.
Eggers, it's probably Werewolf.
Well, it is taking place in England, though. Okay. So I don't know. I would just say
definitely werewolf.
Werewolf.
I got you. Probably werewolf. Currently set for release on Christmas Day 2026. While details are scarce, sources tell Hollywood Reporter that the story is set in 13th century England.
This is very Robert Eggers, like the way that this whole thing has kind of come together and this confirmation of this next movie. He talked a lot about how he wants the dialogue and the dialect to be extremely authentic for this, and that is a huge driving part behind what he's going to do with it. So it's going to be like extremely like, and I don't know if that was a shot at the Brutalist or not, but it's that idea of like, we really want to make sure that's authentic. He talked about thinking about shooting it in black and white, but he changed his mind. And then he also mentioned a quote that has made it's gone all over the place about. He's basically like, I will not shoot a modern movie. Like, I'm not going to shoot. I think he said something like the idea of filming a car or the idea of filming a phone. It's just like something that's not in his DNA. Like, he can't do that. So I would imagine if it looks like a Robert Eggers movie and sounds like a Robert Eggers movie, it's probably a Robert Eggers movie from here going forward. But yeah, I mean, this makes total sense. We're reteaming with Focus Features. We are putting it on around Christmas, just like Nosferatu. Like, let's run it back. I mean, we had success. Like, copy the formula and put it out there again. I think if you're a fan of his, you got to be excited about it.
Tiny, but just to say, he got me last year. I spent Christmas in the gothic horror world of Robert Eggers. I don't know if I'm going to repeat that next year or this coming year.
You'll be there and you'll like it.
I might see it Christmas Eve. I might see it Boxing Day. I don't know if I'll see it Christmas Day.
I don't know why, man, but like I just imagined a cutaway for this podcast when you said like he wants it to be 13th century England. He wants it to be incredibly like the accents to be just right. I imagine like Oliver Twist being like, "Did you see the werewolf, governor?" Like just like the worst, like stereotypical, like terrible American trying to do a British accent ever. I could really like that. Like a Family Guy cutaway happened in my head.
Oi.
Okay.
Oi, werewolf.
Okay. George Nolfi, known for his screenplay work on movies such as Bourne Ultimatum and Ocean's 12, has been tapped to write weird that Ocean's 12 got mentioned twice in this podcast. Bourne Ultimatum and Ocean's 12 has been tapped to write New Jedi Order, the Daisy Ridley centric Star Wars movie. The move to Nolfi makes the third writer change for the project.
Scotty, my big takeaway is like we're titling this thing New Jedi Order. Is that when was that a thing? This is news to me.
That's just how the Hollywood Reporter put it out there. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't know if that was supposed to be a confirmation or not, but that's how they said it. So yeah,
Wow.
Intriguing.
yeah,
That's crazy to me. I remember how big a deal it normally is to get that title for the new Star Wars movie, like, and everyone like starts to wonder about what it means. Like, what does The Force Awakens mean? What does The Last Jedi mean? Who's the Last Jedi? That's
I don't even know what a Phantom Menace is.
Yeah, exactly. That's wild if this is
I
how they
still
announce
don't. I saw the movie.
The long-awaited film adaptation of Eric Larson's best-selling book, The Devil in the White City, has gained some momentum, as sources tell Deadline that 20th Century has come on to the project with Leonardo DiCaprio in talks to star and Martin Scorsese in talks to direct.
Read. I've been looking forward to this adaptation for a long time. The whole story of this prolific serial killer, H.H. Holmes, and him kind of lurking and using the World's Fair as a stomping grounds was always just an interesting one in general to me, but then to see Leonardo DiCaprio wanting to get this story done for such a long time. I've been hearing about it forever. The last time I heard about it, I think it was supposed to be a Hulu miniseries with Keanu Reeves starring. Now we're getting to the point Scorsese says he's going to do it. I'm kind of curious. I mean, I wish him the best. Wish him a long, happy, fruitful life. He's doing excellent work still at this age, but he's got a lot of projects lined up. So I'm curious if Scorsese will, if this project has been sitting in a development hell for a while, hopefully it can finally get out. I would love to see DiCaprio kind of just flourish in the serial killer role, but we'll see if it ever actually truly gets made now.
Barbarian director Zach Kreger has been attached to write and direct a reboot of Resident Evil, the horror action movie franchise based on the popular video game. 4 studios are in a bidding war for the project, among them Warner Brothers and Netflix, according to The Hollywood Reporter.
Scotty, I am a somewhat new fan to the Resident Evil franchise. Growing up, my parents didn't let me play those kind of games. I was a little young, had younger siblings, and they were on PlayStation by and large, so it just wasn't, on the table for me. So my first exposure was the, I love Mila Jovovich, but those Resident Evil movies are pretty terrible. That was my first exposure. So between that, not growing up on it, seeing those terrible movies, just was never that interested in it. I still saw like a good 3 of the movies just because I had buddies that were like, oh, Resident Evil, this is awesome. Check it out with me. I'm like, all right, whatever. Fast forward to this summer, I played the Resident Evil 4 remake for the PS5. I enjoyed that so much that I went back and played Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 7, and Resident Evil 8. So in a short amount of time, I have become a very big fan of Resident Evil. So you take that with Zach Cregers, who did Barbarian, one of my favorite horror I'll just say horrors in the last couple of years. So surprising, such a fresh take. I think all of this bodes really, really well, and it's just a franchise with characters and a story that deserve to be given the proper treatment. I will add the caveat that I've kind of been on record that I think by and large video games work better as series than as movies, but I think this is a franchise that has the scope that it could work really well on the big screen.
The Wayans Brothers scary movie reboot for Paramount has landed a release date of June 12th, 2026.
Read. I've been looking forward. Sorry, man. I've been looking forward to a new scary movie film, especially with the Wayans Brothers actually coming back on board for the first time, I think, since Scary Movie 3. I'm curious. They have a lot of years of horror to catch up on and parody. I'm sure Get Out, Us, the Jordan Peele films will be like a big focus to it and be able to, be a breeding ground. But it all means nothing if Anna Faris and Regina Hall aren't returning to the franchise for this one. Got to bring them back. And of course, the what's up Ghostface.
I did not realize until this moment that Regina Hall was in any of the scary movies. So good call.
Weird breeding ground for actors, those scary movie films.
All right, Prime Video's Invincible has added several new actors to its voice cast for season 3, including Aaron Paul, Simu Liu, Jonathan Banks, Kate Mara, Jolo Maridueño, John DiMaggio, and Z Ma.
Scotty, some real heavy hitters in this lineup here, and it does remind me of around this time last year when we got the trailer for season 2 of Invincible, and one of the things they did is just had a big splash page full of names of voices to expect, and that did a lot to create excitement. I think this is doing a similar thing there. I do have to call out there are a couple of participants here that they are probably just as surprised that we are that they're going to be playing in the world of Invincible before they get to play in their respective comic book universes again, which is it's interesting. But John DiMaggio, he's definitely a standout. Like, how have they not utilized him yet? He's just such a incredible voice actor and such a unique voice. I think he's going to work really, really well in the world of Invincible.
Emmy Award winner and star of The Punisher and Walking Dead, Jon Bernthal, has joined the cast of Christopher Nolan's film adaptation of The Odyssey.
Jay, I mean, this cast, every week we get somebody new. Christopher Nolan, he's living on top of the world. He's putting together this movie with Matt Damon and Tom Holland and Zendaya and all these people. They announced this week that they're going to be filming on the actual island that Odysseus is said to have landed on in the Odyssey. Cool. On location. It's like they're going to be all throughout they're going to the whole Adriatic Sea or Aegean Sea or whatever, and just hitting all the real time locations. So hey, it's a good time to be Christopher Nolan.
Rebuttal here. I love Jon Bernthal, and this as big as that cast is and as awesome as the cast is, Jon Bernthal is so freaking cool. Love him on The Bear. I loved him in The Punisher, and love him as Shane on The Walking Dead, and I hope he can bring some of that Shane energy to the movie, whatever character he's playing, and he can just get a little bald head and scratch his head. Let me ask you something, Ulysses. We just need a little bit of that grit in the Odyssey.
Absolutely. My first thought hearing him cast, I guess I'll use my rebuttal here too, is that he fits into this world of the Odyssey no matter what version of we had talked in previous episodes if it was going to be the original setting for the Odyssey, if we were going to do an Odyssey reset somewhere else in time or space, and it looks like they're going to be setting it now that they're setting it on the actual island. I'm assuming that means they're not going to be doing something weird temporally. But I was just like, Jon Bernthal just seems like a character who would fit into the like a character either part of the crew or some like someone that Ulysses has to face on the road of an Odyssey, like no matter what they said it as. He's just a perfect character for that sort of story, I feel like. Perfect actor for that sort of story. All right. Sources tell Deadline that Caitlin Dever has been added to the cast of the upcoming Godzilla x Kong sequel set in Legendary's Monsterverse.
Scotty, this is what you do. This is what you do in Hollywood. You get a high profile role like Abby in The Last of Us Season 2, and you capitalize on that. So the Kong movies have been, varying levels of returns on investment in terms of the quality and just how they financially perform. But coming off of Godzilla Kong last year, if anybody remembers my take, I thought it was a lot of fun and a lot better than I expected. So seems like a good time to be hopping onto the franchise. And I think she's going to turn in really good work come, Last of Us Season 2. The only thing I've really seen her in, though, thinking back, is a film from 2019 called Booksmart, where she was doing something very different. She was like a high school academic type girl trying to break loose and cut loose for the first time in her life. But yeah, I'm excited for her. She's talented, and I think she deserves these kind of roles.
If they can top Kong using Baby Kong as a weapon, then I'm all for it.
All right, well, that is all our stories for this lightning round and our show. So let's go around and tell the people where they can find your stuff online. As our guest this week, Reed Murphy, tell the people where they can find you online. What you got going on?
Of course, you all can find me at 323Reed, at 323REID on all social media. TikTok is one of our favorites right now with all the things that we can do there. But the 323 Network on YouTube is the best spot to find all of the beautiful faces. Jay Sisson is one of those beautiful faces that's been on the network and had some great, not the Kool-Aid topic yet.
Bring me back for the Kool-Aid discussion.
Oh, that'll be something.
We'll party.
Yeah. But you can find us there, the 323 with Reed Murphy, wherever you get podcasts, or College Shame Days, our other great show there. Getting into Super Bowl week, so we're going to be doing our largest week of the year, starting next week, 5 days straight of shows. There's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of varying topics, from the Oscars to Kendrick Lamar to, of course, the Super Bowl matchup. There'll be something for everybody. And as we're building up, everybody here at Stranded Panda, if you all want to check us out, if you're in the DMV area, Awesome Con is a huge comic book and comic culture event that happens in Washington, D.C. We're expecting to be back and doing our show live from Awesome Con again this year for the third year. So come check us out, and hopefully we can mess with some of the celebrities that are going to be there. I think the Lord of the Rings cast, a lot of them are going to be there. So I would love to, I'd love to throw the Kool-Aid question at Orlando Bloom. So maybe, follow us. Maybe we'll do that.
All right. I think I know what DMV stands for. Is it DC, Maryland, or is it Delaware,
Yes.
Maryland, Virginia? Okay.
DC, Maryland, Virginia, until DC pisses us off with traffic, and then we'll happily make it Delaware.
Okay.
All right, and Jay Sisson.
You can find me weekly at Commute the Podcast on Mondays, and we are also covering Severance Season 2 on Always Watching. So if you haven't subscribed to Always Watching, or if you haven't watched Severance, I cannot recommend that show enough. Hop on, catch up on the first season, and journey through Season 2 with us as we watch it and react to it.
Absolutely. And Scotty St. Clair.
Yeah, please do check out that Severance coverage on Always Watching if you're watching. We're having a lot of fun covering that with all the theories and speculation. Been a really good time. And if the Oscars talk, tickled your fancy at all, from what I'm gathering here, based on the number of films Matthew Carroll's seen, it sounds like I may be leading the charge on the Bingers Assemble coverage for the Oscar stuff. So look forward to that to start to take shape soon.
Absolutely. Yeah, go for it, man. Take it, run with it. You can find me over all over the place. Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. We've got a big year coming up, so make sure you're subscribed and following along on that. We're going to be putting a lot of those episodes on YouTube, so if you're a YouTube watcher, be prepared for a lot more Marvel stuff in the feed, and then check out the Severance coverage. I'm on there too. So Always Watching is a great feed to follow. And we'll be back soon, right here with more Multiverse news. Peace.
You stay classy, Multiverse.
Thanks for watching on YouTube, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe or whatnot. The subscribe, the bell icon, the like button, all those things. But we asked last week for you guys to send in more questions for us. So we had Bob Zombie 3000 said thanks for answering the questions. But then he says, my question this week is, which MCU character would you want to have a drink with at a bar? Let's go around. Who do you think? Jay, who you got?
Thor, for sure. I mean, that guy can probably put it down. Seems
that's
like a good time. Yeah.
That's a good one. What about you, Reed? What you got?
I don't know why I feel like Nick Fury would be an interesting time. If you can get him to be let loose enough to have a drink with you, yeah, I think that's good. That's going to be some interesting stuff.
That is interesting. I feel like he doesn't let loose, though. I just don't know. He's a tough shell to crack.
I can get him with a brown apple and Sprite.
Yeah, maybe so. And just guys declare what you got.
Oh, the easy answer for me is Yelena Belova because, you only get one shot. Do not miss your chance. But that would probably be my last night alive. So, like, realistically, I was thinking Scott Lang.
Worth it.
Scott Lang, he seems like one of the more down-to-earth, like, relatable kind of guys, and there's a likelihood that we might actually have a friendship after those drinks. It might not be limited to that one-time drink,
Yeah. I don't know why, but I do think Tony Stark would be fun, or we'd blow up the world. And either way, like, I feel like we'd have an epic time. It's a Stark party. That's going to be a party. That's going to be a big time.
Ain't no party like a Tony Stark party.
That's right. And Angela Pell says, have any of you watched Arcane? I'm just starting it, and it's so unique. Anybody seen Arcane?
I've seen season 1.
Thoughts?
I liked it. I thought it took a little bit to get going. I thought the first 2 episodes did a lot of world building, but once you get into episode 3, it's off to the races and really good stuff. I do need to go back and check out season 2 because I hear that the quality remains the same.
Sweet. All right, well, that's our YouTube questions. If you want to ask a question in our YouTube chat for this episode, just ask it down in the comments, and we'll try to get back to you with right here in the post show. All right, we'll see you guys soon.